Hi, I'm Tom Glassman, and I've been photographing for well over 40 years. And I'm here with a few quick tips on how you can immediately start taking better photographs, whether you're an old pro or you're trying to master a new DSLR for the first time, or even if you only shoot with a cell phone. And the way we're going to do this is to look at two or three different photographs and discuss why they work, why they don't, composition, and more. My goal is to get you in and out quickly so you can spend more time shooting and less time watching me. So let's get started. Welcome back. Whenever I go around the country speaking about all the photographs I'm going to take someday, people always ask me where I get my ideas. And it's kind of embarrassing because usually Elvis appears with a tiny reindeer and points out whatever, it looks good. But I'm sure, like a lot of you, Elvis doesn't appear, and sometimes you have to rely on your own sort of imagination to pick out what makes a good photograph. So again, in this episode, I want to talk about some of the tips and tricks I use to sort of look for things that help to make an image work. In the past, I've always talked about layers, patterns, but mostly putting one thing in front of another or oddball juxtapositions. So in this first image, what I want to do is show you a photograph I took at the State Fair. And in this case, I saw the Little Mermaid, and in the background was a sort of trailer kids walk through and get scared with that kiss image, and then you had the ducks in the foreground. So what I asked the carnival barker at that particular game to do was to hold people back while I crouched down and took a shot. What this is a game where these ducks are floating in the water, they're moving around, and you try and throw a ring over them, and if you do, you get a stuffed animal. And I crouched down, I lined up the bottom of the tank, but I didn't want it to be that visible. And what I'm looking for is like layers. You've got this crazy image of ducks next to an image of a mermaid, which is pretty improbable, and then this bizarre image in the background. So in this case, I focused on the Little Mermaid. I wanted to stop down to get this relatively sharp because it's quite a contrast there. And I knew the longer, a more depth of field or a larger f-stop, you would have less light in. So these would get kind of blurry, which was good because, again, you didn't want these to be too tack sharp because your eye would stop here and not move on to here or to here. So I deliberately let this be in motion. I focused on her, stopped down to get this tack sharp, and got the image. And I just had fun with it. What you have to think about, and the lesson here is, keep your eyes open for what works or what's improbable next to something else. Probably thousands and thousands of people walk by this every day, and no one saw it like I did here. And this is what you have to train yourself to do. I love the image of this. There's this image and this. And to see them all come together one after another in a layer is what makes this kind of fun. Just as an aside, this image or game with a mermaid has been at this fair for a couple years. A couple years before, I took a shot of her with a trash can in the background with a clown head on the trash can. It didn't make for a great image, and so it never really made it into my portfolio, but this one certainly did. Another image along the same lines, I was in a flea market in Grants Pass, Oregon, and what drew me in there was this array of just amazing stuff out front. And you just think it's got to be a good photograph in there somewhere. And so I went into this flea market, and on a shelf I saw these sort of, I think they're door stoppers, these little cowgirls, metal cowgirls, and you can see the price tags hanging off, right there. And the background was a sort of the wall, and it had that blue look. It looked like a sky almost. And you had cowgirls models pinups in the background here. you had this sort of romance novel Indian, sort of Western theme here. The only thing I did was turn this steer around. You can see the Scotch tape on it, but he was facing the wrong direction. But I asked the woman if I could take a shot. And she said, of what? And I kind of showed her, but I'm in there with this long lens. It's a 200 millimeter lens. And I just isolated it. And to me, what made a shot was this improbable juxtaposition of these two with everything behind it and sort of isolated so the background didn't distract or ruin it. And it just made a fun out there image. Along those same lines, having done so well in a flea market, I started haunting many of them. And I came away with one of my more bizarre Christmas cards. This was at another flea market. You had this Lawrence Welk Christmas album in the background, and there was this sculpture of 3 Hasidic Jews studying the Talmud. Now, at the time, I was over here to the right of this thing, and if I'd taken the shot as I standing there, this guy would have blocked all this. So I moved around here where you have the space here and you can read all the type on the album. Again, I asked the guy if I could take a picture, and he goes, of what? And I point, and he goes, what? So again, no one has my quirky sense of humor. But again, you focus on this. You want this tack sharp. Then you might stop down a little bit because you want, when you have type or writing in an image, you always want that sharp enough to be able to be read so people don't struggle with it and they'll spend time with it. And again, you've got this image here and this image in the background. The two together come together to make the most improbable kind of setup. And I got a great Christmas gift to myself. And again, it's out there. It's fun. I have a good time. Along the same lines of juxtaposition, this is a case where I was sort of up in northern Oregon, driving around, and I saw this airport cafe sign, predictably enough, at an airport, and it was a restaurant. And what makes this? If you just shot, the words airport or cafe, this sad, lonesome, childlike, image of the airplane with airport and cafe. And again, why I keep a lookout for these things, I think I mentioned earlier, I have some art director friends back in Boston who are diner freaks. So I always am on a mission to look for anything related to diners or cafes, and here it was. And to me, what makes this image is, airport, the airplane, and it's just kind of silly. For the technical aspect of this thing, this is an f8 middle aperture. Everything's in the same plane of focus. So you want to, you can see right there, and this is overdone. I wonder if I can do this without, nope. But you can kind of see the texture and grain in the wood. I had to open up a little bit because there was a lot of white there. You want the detail in here. You can see the grain in this plywood here. But again, if you're shooting something and you're going to end up blowing it up, take your time. You're on a tripod. Shoot the thing. Have fun with it. And anyway, that's, I think, our lesson for today. I'm running out of stuff to talk about. We will see you next time, and thanks for watching. Take care. My young computer-savvy assistant reminds me that it's really important to ask for likes and subscribes, but I would also love some comments below discussing what we're diving into and what you might want to see in the future. With all that out of the way, thanks for watching and thanks for your patience. See you next episode.